Soup! Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories. Speaking of RPGs, I restarted my Final Fantasy campaign. I'm sure I've talked about it before. I used to run a D&D Final Fantasy 14 conversion campaign using a whole PDF that you can... It looks like this. It's really nice. It's all homebrewed and stuff. But man, some of the class design is top notch. I love it. They basically just cobbled a bunch of stuff together from other classes in D&D and sort of mix and match them, remix them a little bit, and boy howdy, some of them are incredibly fun. Currently I have a party of a Dark Knight, a Black Mage, a Scholar, a Gunbreaker, and a Viper, and oh my god, the Viper in this book is so good. Actually, unironically so good. If you're looking to have a fun read, go ahead and check it out. Down links below. No sponsor, no nothing. I just like this stuff. Nevertheless, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. Manipulative DM, endless red flags, and now my partner is staying neutral? Hi all, just need to vent about my story. I've been playing with this group for 4 years. DM has been DMing for about 8 years. Over time, many people have joined and left the group. In most situations, the departures were very abrupt, and remaining players were encouraged to cut contact with them. Huh, what an odd thing to say. That's an actually odd thing to say. I wonder why. That should have been my first red flag. The DM was also in a rocky situationship with one of my friends for about a year and a half. It didn't end well, and I was constantly put in the middle of the drama. On top of that, the quality of the sessions really declined. We lost the freedom to make the actions we wanted. For example, if we wanted to kill an enemy, they would magically disappear, or we would get railroaded by an even bigger BBG. My character had been killed and revived 3 times, and had been forced into death saving throws countless of times. I want to make a comment about this, and you know what? I am guilty of this. I have used Dimension Door to make one specific type of enemy in a BBG party. Always try to see if they can Dimension Door out of there, because they're kind of the general of the army, and they sort of need to stay alive in order for the army to have any kind of bone, any kind of legs to walk upon. They're the movers, the doers. They give commands and orders because everybody else in the army are kind of dumb grunts. These guys particularly are like the generals and commanders. They tell where the rest go, and if they don't prioritize their own self-preservation to try to stay alive in service of the great BBG overlord, they sort of disappoint the BBG overlord and become useless. But alternatively, sometimes you just gotta let the players chase the guy that's running away and let them take him down. Sometimes you just gotta let him have the final bout or be able to do something in order to stop him from going wherever they're going and stuff. I get you want to have recurring characters and stuff, but if you don't want them to die or have a possibility of dying, don't put him in combat. But if they do kill him off, they'll make him just to run away just willy-nilly, just out of nowhere, just like Zoidberg level. If you don't want the enemy to die in combat, don't put him in combat in the first place. But if players kill the guy, just let him kill the guy already. Or if they're using Dimension Door, let him counterspell it. Whatever, you know? Whatever they got going on is whatever they got going on. If they can stop him on the tracks, let him have a win. When I joined, I was still in high school. The game was supposed to be free, but in the last few months, the DM had started asking for money. He owed another player, who left some time ago, $200 for 3D printing filament. However, what really weighed on my decision to leave was the DM's poor mental health and the burden of being his personal therapist. He was diagnosed with depression, but stops taking his medication after 1 or 2 months because he feels numb. After deciding to leave, I also realized he had an alcohol problem, which was never discussed before. He knows I have family members who suffer from alcoholism. I messaged the veteran players privately to let them know I was leaving, and then I talked to the DM. After that, I sent a goodbye message in the main group chat stating I would stay for a few more sessions to wrap things up. Because the GM doesn't have much else going on in his life, he viewed me leaving the game as our relationship ending. That night, he messaged me non-stop, offering unwanted solutions to keep me. He then gave me an ultimatum. If I left, the campaign would end for everyone. Sometimes ultimatums are reasonable, but not this one. This one is an extremely unreasonable ultimatum. A player's not happy with this stuff, let him go, let him leave, but you don't have to punish everybody else just because one player wants to leave. That is just mean and cruel to the rest of the players. I told the group about this, as it felt very unfair to the people who have dedicated 5 hours a week to these sessions of years. The DM deflected and left the group chat. A few days later, he came back with a text saying, "I will never stop DMing," and proceeded to kick me out. The cherry on top, my partner is trying to remain impartial and plans to join them for a few more sessions. I've already told him how I feel, but I'm very uncomfortable with everything. Edit. The initial idea was for me and my partner to go for a few more sessions and we would both leave. Edit 2. My partner was just going to end the campaign, but understood that was an option before what happened. He will not continue with the campaign. DM also reached him asking if I would like to mend things. The best part? One of the things that boiled my pot was how the DM was reaching my partner after we talked something instead of talking directly, and he continues to do it. Thanks for the advice. Thanks for the help and advice. If I have a problem with somebody, I don't completely rat him out. I give a little bit of an open door. You know, at the end of the day, you can remove somebody and block somebody, but I usually like to leave an open door just in case there's a way to patch things up. And you know what? It's worked out more better for me than it has in a negative way. Even the people I don't see eye to eye with, I still don't have them blocked on Discord or anything. They can contact me literally anytime and hash things out as necessary. But going through their partner just to try to get to you is kind of weird. They could just reach out to you directly, you know, just talk out directly if they actually care to talk about it. Probably they don't care too much about it and they're using your partner as a proxy instead. Because if they actually cared, they would have messaged you directly and they would have had a heart-to-heart. That's my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below over the story and I'll get to the next story for today. AITA for disliking my DM and a player. I decided to play D&D for the first time a month ago, and because I'm from a country where not many people play, I looked for a group on Discord and Reddit. But the first group I found is, they're just weird Curse of Strahd. The biggest problem for me is one player and DM. The issue in game started on my second session, where at the end of combat, DM had this cutscene of Strahd talking to us, and then teleporting around to annoy Arena. When he did that, DM had Ismark attack Strahd with a butter knife and get killed. None of our characters were able to react or maybe stop him. Then Carnage arrived and we were invited to Ravenloft and session ended. Cool, I thought. Next session we'll make decision whether we'll go or not. Nope. Next session we were just transported into the castle. I guess DM decided for us. I then started noticing stuff like NPCs or DMs cutting off roleplay we had. Now I realized that even on previous sessions it was happening and our characters never had that much time to make decisions or talk about lore. It made it difficult for me to process what is happening or get immersed at all. I know that maybe the party prefers encounter-heavy gameplay, but doesn't Curse of Strahd require some decision-making and is lore-heavy? Yeah, I mean, I never played Curse of Strahd myself, but I'm pretty sure it's very granular to the lore, the land of Barovia, Ravenloft, and everything. So at the end of the day, you do have this big old land and big world that's just full of richness and depth, but I'm assuming the DM is probably just trying to hurry you guys to the next part of the module. Who knows? Maybe. Or they just don't know about railroading or don't realize that they're heavily railroading you guys directly into the next cutscene. I don't know why specifically they're not giving you guys the avenue in order to just like act out and allow you to have your actions so they can react as the DM and the world itself at large. It's a little bit weird. Typically for my games, I like to see the world is reacting to what players are acting on. I mean, the world itself is still living, things are still happening in the world, the players aren't the sole arbiters of what's going on in the world, but the world reacts to the players' actions. Things can still happen in the world, but mainly it's like the world's doing the thing, players do an action, the world reacts, whether it's big or small. And I feel like this DM is forgetting to react to the player actions because the players don't have any kind of agency. They're just on a railroad, kind of stuck doing whatever they want to do instead of just looking around and experiencing lore. So the session was still finished in a castle, but session after that, magical teleportation happened again. And we were invited a wagon traveling somewhere else now. One player in character even asked where we're going. It turned out we were escorting Arena to Vallaki. Again, none of us made that decision, we were just going to do it. It just happened. Also, apart from shameless railroad in between sessions, I also noticed that in-game itself we were given little time or options to do anything about what is happening. I don't want to make it an essay-long post to describe it, but it was strange. DM was apparently forever DM and had run the module before, and no other player have had any issues with it. Yeah, probably because he's just railroading everybody and nobody knows that they can actually do things outside of stuff. Nobody realized that they could just do things and player agency is a thing. And they kind of just stuck being this railroad, unfortunately, I guess. But I noticed in session they tried to investigate something suspicious multiple times just to learn nothing, and then have this big reveal of a plot twist that was unstoppable seemingly. I do not have problems with linear story, but it just seemed extreme lack of things in the world my character could interact with. Also, both players and DM took ages on the turn in every session, which was due to technical issues or just not planning the turns in advance, which I understand, but it was so constant it was difficult to keep focused. This is something I have least problem with. Out of game, both DM and this player sometimes talk to me out of game, which should be nice to get to know each other and stuff, but no, The only thing they talk about is rants about themselves or their characters or lengthy events and complaints about anything. I'm a good listener and I love giving people advice. But the problem is this all they talk about, and I feel like I'm getting drained by energy vampires. Ironic because we play Curse of Strahd. God, I wish I was getting drained right now. Well, I mean, I'm not getting drained. I mean, I guess the story is draining my attention span, but that's about it. But that's normal. That's part of the contract. Also, don't question me about the drain comment. I'm not going to answer myself. I'm not going to explain myself to you. It's okay. Meet me after the video. I'll tell you later. I do not mind talking to people who are passionate about something. It's just never-ending self-absorbed talk, where sometimes I try to break it up and talk about something else, and you can tell they're no longer interested in conversations when it's not about them anymore. It kind of makes me feel like they have no interest in knowing me. I'm like a bin to them where they can info dump about their PCs, vent, and collect validation. This one player even told me I'm like a safe space to them. But yeah, they proceed to use all that space to themselves and never ask me a single question about my day. It would be awkward and uncomfortable for me to point out to them. I try to subtly, like for example, show them something I wrote on my PC, and it was just awkward because it seemed to not care. Sounds like they're not having a conversation with you, they're just talking at you and just hoping you're listening and responding to everything they say. You're great at listening, but they're not great at listening. They don't want to have a conversation, they just want to have an ear to talk at. Not even talk to, but you just talk at. They want to scream into the void for the void to respond here and there, but they don't care what the void wants. And I mean, sometimes I get it, yeah, sometimes you just need to vent to somebody and stuff, but like this kind of thing should be mutual. If you're gonna be venting and like chatting to people or nerding out about your favorite character, your favorite OC and stuff, you better be there for the whole ass conversation. Because if I gotta listen about your favorite Sonic OC, Shadow the Hedgehog Shadowkin, Ultimate Badass Generation 37, then I gotta tell you about my little cleric Nyazu, and we can nerd out about that together. Can anyone explain to me what is the point of running such a lore intensive world and not have your players interact with it? Simply put, they're just putting on a railroad. They're just stuck in making sure that they are the ones that are being prioritized in the game. The DM is the priority. What players want to do is not the priority. It's about what the DM wants to do, which is a really wrong mindset. In a regular game, DM is just like any other player. They're just playing the part of the world, the NPCs and everything else, and they're the adjudicator. They have a slightly more important role than the players do when it comes to making sure the game actually runs, because they're actually running the physical game. But at the table, they're a player like anybody else. They're just filling the part and playing a role of the world, I suppose. But also, it's not fair for them to treat you like this, because they just want to talk at you and they want to make sure that's like, oh, you better listen to my stuff. That's the most important part to me. What you want to do, I couldn't care. Player agency? Never heard of it. Sounds like a horrible disease. You should probably go get it checked out. I feel like this DM is just allergic to having anybody have any player agency except themselves. And maybe the player that they're interacting with, the selfish player that you don't like, they're just selfish. Both are just really selfish, self-absorbed people. Disliking selfish, self-absorbed people, there's nothing wrong with that. And I would never consider you as the a-hole in the situation. In fact, I feel like the DM and the player are both the a-holes, not you, OP. It's a shame, because I really like the homebrew monsters the DM has and whatnot. The combat is fun, but I can feel my brain switching off because I have no agency. Am I overreacting? No, I don't think you're overreacting. Yes, you have a game that has a self-absorbed DM and a self-absorbed player that only care about what they want to do and what not everybody else at the table wants to do, or about any of their interests. Personally, I feel like no D&D is better than bad D&D. You should probably leave this game if things aren't getting better. Find yourself a different DM and a different group that will also run Curse of Strahd, where you can actually have, guess what? Wait for it, player agency. I can't believe we have to say this novel new thing that should be honestly standard in every game, but in this one, you simply just don't have as much of it, which is really unfortunate. You, my friend, have a deficiency in player agency. I highly recommend finding a game that can satisfy your need. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.